Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sun shines from the torrential downpour. It's like crazy weather where we are, you guys. We might be swimming in boats in a couple of days, but I'm super excited today to introduce to you Kirsha Campbell. She has been in my world for, I'm going to say at least more than a year, maybe even two.
I think so. Yeah.
It's been quite a while, and
Time
I
flies.
greatly admire her tenacity. I love that she is about the money because, guys, this is a really important conversation. And Kirsha was kind enough to share her platform, and so I really wanted to return the favor and introduce you to her if you've not crossed paths with her yet. So she is the owner of the Cash Lab. She is all about the conversation about profit and cash flow are not the same things, and working all this time for revenue but being broke and exhausted isn't necessarily the goal either. So, welcome to our conversation today. Tell me, did you always know you would be an entrepreneur, or how did the journey for you start? Because I want to start at the beginning. How did you end up here? Did you imagine this would be your path?
Thank you so much, Christine. I'm pretty excited to be here and just to share in the wealth that you offer to persons. I really do appreciate the impact that you are having. So I do remember growing up that it was on my list. I think from in high school, you make your list of how you want your life to be, and I did have it that okay, I was gonna have my own business. So I didn't plan to be in the accounting space for sure. However, things turned, plot twist, as you always say,
Mhm.
when I was introduced to accounting, and it was just an automatic, knack there. So I aborted my journey for sciences, and that led me to be in accounting. And over the years, as I connected with more businesses, worked in various roles in the corporate space, I saw the need more and more for supporting persons, small business owners, medium size, even some persons in the corporate space as well, in really be how to be on this journey to cash flow. I realized there was a huge gap. And
Mhm.
coming from the corporate space where there are corporate strategies that do work. And a lot of persons think, oh, it's a big company, that it's not going to work. However, I saw the need, and gradually, by just connecting with more business owners, supporting, persons while in the corporate space, then my path gradually shifted to be here. And I really took the plunge after the birth of my twin boys. I realized that based on the dynamics of what was happening, I needed to take that time. I did want to be in a space where I was present for them more in a more powerful way. And also, I realized more and more persons were reaching out to small, medium sized business owners for really support in a different way, an unusual way, a way that they're not used to. So I jumped at it.
I love it. This is such an important, conversation. I just want to linger on it because I think, we often think you and I share that we are not the accidental entrepreneur, but the path wasn't necessarily clear. And so if
No.
you're sitting in our community and you're going, I might do this or I might do that, and you're constantly finding that uncertainty, I will tell you, you will never have 100% certainty until you move. And then when you move, it is about the recognition of, gee, I kind of fit here, or I'm observing something and I'm seeing potential, because you and I know, we've chatted this before. I didn't wake up one day thinking I would coach, unlike many coaches in the industry. It was
Yeah.
because I was good at something. People kept saying, what's the mystery? I'm like, there is no mystery. They're like, well, could you teach me? Sure. And so I want you to know that if you don't know yet, that's okay. But listen, be prepared to plot twist, be prepared to move, and also look at the balance of what you want for your life, because you said, twins is a big change in the family dynamic. Not one, there's two.
Yes.
And what do you want, them to see you succeed as, and how present can you and do you want to be? Everyone has different choices, but it's okay to say what I wanted before is shifting, and the path I
Yes.
went on is shifting, and sometimes that can lead to great uncertainty. So if you're open to it, I'd love to know, where was the crossroads where you started to go, okay, I am in, but was it an easy ride?
I think it definitely started when I realized that more and more I was being offered corporate positions, and I was less and less interested in going back into the corporate space. And I realized also that the support I was giving to these different dynamics of people, I realized I was making more impact. I realized I was learning and growing as well. I was taking that plunge. We talk about fear. Fear is real, like you are afraid. And especially when you're in a space where you stand alone, like you're not among other entrepreneurs, other business owners, persons are looking on, okay, they said, I'll send you a job you can apply for. Are you sure you want to do this? You get into those kind of space. So it's at that time when you realize, when you stop second guessing. I mean, you still have that thought, like, am I doing the right thing? I think persons will
That
always
never
have
goes
that.
away. No.
Yeah. However, it's when you're at that point where even though you might second guess yourself, you still feel that peace to keep being in this path versus going. And also, you don't want to, like for me, I want to know I gave it my all. I don't want to say, okay, I quit halfway. What if, what if? I've had so many what ifs in life. I was tired of what ifs. So I was like,
That's
I want
good.
to be
Draw the
in
line in the
this.
sand saying, and that's
Yeah,
okay,
I
right?
want to
There can
be
be
in
more than
this.
one line in the sand.
Yeah.
No, but there is a moment where like, I'm more afraid of the what if I don't do this.
Yes, exactly. And I had more and more moments like this. And, I connected with persons in similar spaces that really gave me that drive as well, that, this is something doable. I saw other persons way ahead, more successful, and I realized it is possible. And that did give me the drive that, okay, I'm committed here. I'm gonna be in this for the long haul. And another thing too, when I realized this was despite the challenges, I didn't want to, there so many challenges along the way. It wasn't a case where I was willing to throw in the towel. I mean, it crosses your mind. However, again, you feel more peace trying to figure out a different way, a better way versus giving up. So those
Yeah,
were some of the pivotal moments that definitely let me realize this is it. This is it.
I love that. That's finding faith in yourself. And that's, I mean, yes, you will be scared. That like we never want to undermine that. And I love, I'm a real talk kind of person and saying it's okay to be afraid and to have
Yeah.
hesitation. But that is always the thing that drove me too. It was, I never want to reach the end of my life, be it long or short, and think I wish I had. And
Yeah.
the interesting thing when you work for yourself, that is both a double-edged sword, a great gift of independence, and nobody is riding you the way that you might be experiencing that in the corporate world. But the
Yeah.
opposite to that is you must still say, when I have the tough moments, I will keep going. And
Yes.
I'm in this for the long haul. I want to go back to that because I think this is really interesting. And I've had this conversation a lot. I'm fired up about leadership right now in the podcast that I'm listening to and what's going on in my world, because it's, the first person you must lead is yourself, but you must
Yeah.
expect that this doesn't happen overnight. And so
No.
the commitment level, and I say re-enroll yourself every day, recommit to your vision every day, understanding that this is a process, an evolution. Nobody will do it for you. And at the same time, I think about this analogy. I was talking with someone who was asking for some coaching support. I said, a professional, whether it is, a lawyer or an accountant or somebody who goes in, to the professional services, has spent years in education and significant dollars in education to get to the place where they begin. As an entrepreneur, you begin from day one.
Yeah.
The decision that says I'm committed to doing this. And yet we expect that we can self-learn everything, I think is dangerous. Yes, you can, but how long is your runway? Because
Yeah.
you must commit to the long term and saying, you should be investing in your business. You should be mining the skill gaps you might have, the confidence gaps you might have, and work quickly to shore up foundations to make the long term less painful and more enjoyable and in a harmony that works for you. So I'm curious, as you kind of began to see the business start to move, what kind of things did you decide you needed to invest in? You've talked about community. That's how you and I met. We invested in some
Yeah.
networking opportunities together. I know you've gone in and published books, and you've made some investments there. what kind of investments would you say for yourself were really important? And also for when you're working with clients, what is an investment and what is a debt when you were growing a business?
So definitely some investments I've made in myself is that commitment to continuous learning in various ways. So for me, what I do is it's either going to be paid or unpaid, simply. So I do have programs that I do invest in, money wise, spending to help me grow, learn from others ahead, and also help me grow as an individual. Because the more you grow, you realize there's so many, it's like an onion, there's so many different layers to yourself. And a more grown you serves others better, your families, your clients, everyone. You are showing up in a much better way. So those are some of the investments that I did make. Definitely diving into programs, connecting with persons who could mentor and guide me as well, coach me as well. I also I read a lot, not as much as I used to. However, I do
Feel that
read.
one.
Yeah, and I enjoy reading. So I've read books that help me grow, help me change strategies, help me to really break certain habits and understand the importance of habits and so forth. So I read, listen to podcasts, attend events. So those are definitely some of the investments that I continue to make in myself. And the the last question, can you see it again?
Yeah, is when you're looking at coaching people
Yeah.
about cash flow, because that's one of the things that I know with this community, particularly my audience and the people that are in this community, is like, I can't invest until I have money, and I always
Okay.
find that a really interesting conversation. So when you're talking to people, when you're as a small business owner, and cash flow is a big thing, like I get it, you can't spend on rainbows and unicorns, but when you're looking at investments in a business, just from a pure top line point of view, when do you see it as a debt and when do you see it as an investment? Because I think many people struggle to grow quickly because they don't invest. And it's
I think
investing, right?
I find a lot of times persons use investments, expenses so loosely, right? So investments are just going to be something that you're putting out there, hoping to get a return on. The reality is that it can be a very gray area, right? It can be, is this really an investment or is this really a cost for me? Is this really an expense? However, as a rule of thumb, I do suggest that as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, regardless of the level that you're starting at, always have some type of, investment, or some person may look at it as an expense. They don't see the benefit. Always be on the go to have something in your business as where you are growing, and not only for yourself personally, your business. So let's use an example. Let's say you started out and you were probably using Excel, and that's fine. Or some persons use the workbook manual, taking records and stuff. As your business is growing, be prepared to change those systems, right? Think of it. If Amazon was using Excel, I mean, they'd be lost. Excel is very powerful. However, as your business grows, the systems, the tools need to change for both you as the owner, the entrepreneur, the CEO, and in your business. Think about your team as well. Development is very, very important. If you are growing and your team is not growing, that's another gap that's there. So always know that regardless of where your business is, there's always something that you can invest in to really, improve your business, grow as well. And just another loose thing to look at is that investments would be whatever you are able to get a return on, right? So think of it, and that's why I said it's a gray area, because like a lot of persons will say, okay, utilities, that's an expense, you're not investing. However, if we get very detailed, the fact that you had a utility or this access to this, then you're able to get something better, like a return on probably something else. So we could get very deep. However, what is most important is looking at what is the value that's happening after. Yes, persons say marketing is an expense. However, are you getting a lead from that, a contract, right? So always look at what is coming back from what you spend on. Remember that everything that you do in your business will impact your profits or your cash flow in some way or the other. So definitely be prepared to always assess what is the return on what I'm doing. And it's very vast. It can be overwhelming, but take those baby steps to really assess what is happening, what you're spending on, to see what is the benefit, right? A lot of times you're spending, like I've seen where you might jump on this, okay, everybody's, let's say, on TikTok,
Mhm.
right? And you feel that pressure that I need to be on TikTok too. I need to be on Instagram, or I need to attend, I need to have trade shows. You feel that pressure. The pressure is real. However, take that step back to really assess, is this something that will benefit my business now? Your business is not the same as somebody else's. The industry might be similar, same. However, your business is different. The values, the cultures, everything comes to your business in a different way. So be prepared to always take that step back to say, is this something that will really add value, benefit? And be prepared to realize sometimes you make mistakes, you learn and you move on, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think there's such an important distinction, threefold in that. Number one is you must grow to become the leader of the next level. Okay, you don't hatch.
Yes.
You must invest in yourself. And I love that, you can invest in a lot of different ways. It isn't one size fits all.
Yeah.
The second point to that is you get what you measure. And so
Mhm.
it's really important if you're spending that you know why you're spending it, how you're
Yes.
going to track it, and be committed to the action. Like, this is something I find really fascinating. And of course, this is a conversation I have with many of my clients. And in terms of the business, it's like, yes, you're going to spend some money working with me, and I'm going to bring you years of experience that you don't have in business. That's going to
Mhm.
shorten your learning curve. What is one client worth to you? What is 5
Yeah.
clients worth to you, or 10 clients? Because this is a foundation. In my case, it's foundational. It's the kind of work I like to do. But the interesting thing about it is, when you are standing on that do I spend or not spend, the biggest question you need to ask, in my opinion, is, will I do something with this? Because
Yes.
signing up is not enough. You know,
Mhm.
we all have courses we've signed up for, or books we bought and have never opened or used
Yeah.
and implemented. And sometimes, you need to self audit, saying, in this season, can I add this into my mix? And it's okay to say
Exactly.
no, because there will be another opportunity. But when you are paying for the slowness in your business and you don't have the skills, have the courage to invest and measure it and see it then
Yes.
as an investment, because your effort is the biggest driver to ROI.
Mhm.
Do you use it? Are you thinking? Are you not just going through the motions? And so you can make a really big impact, or leave it as an expense, but that comes really down to you. So in your journey, what has been the best investment you've made to date? Of all the things you've done, of all the things, yourself, I'm just curious, what do you think has been the best investment?
I think the best investments I've made have been in communities where I'm being mentored and meeting other business owners. So they differ. It could be in a mastermind setting, it could be a personal one-to-one, but those settings where I'm really connecting with other business owners, those ahead of me, different levels, those are really the best investments that I've made with my time. And when I look back, it's like I should have started doing this sooner, because you learn so much. And that's another thing where a lot of times as CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneur, the mistake is made where you think that you know enough to keep going. And nobody knows enough. We're always, always, always learning. So the more you learn and the more you realize the importance of learning, then you find the dynamics changes so much. When I look back, there are times where I look like, okay, if I had gotten this support before, then I would have been understanding this more. I'd have been changing this strategy. And again, that is why it is so, so, so important to really ensure that the support that you're getting is the right support. And and another thing I do realize when I realize the importance of the support is that I was not looking keenly on the opportunity cost of my time as well as time overall. We make the mistake a lot of times where we don't even consider the time value of money, that we think, oh, we can just keep going, going, going. Every day that you probably don't do this or don't get this client, that is a longer time to get money in your bank account. That is, and money today is always worth more than money later on. So you have to always
Sales
think of it.
101, take it today, figure out the next client later.
Yeah. And
Always.
always remember too that time is just so limited. Like we've lost 24 hours there, 30 hours there. We're never getting that back. So that is why it's always important to not procrastinate. Do it, be open to making mistakes. I think that held me back. I can think of so many times where I'm so apprehensive about making a mistake, be like more on the perfectionist side. So that
Hello.
does limit, yeah, that does limit you. So these are just some of the things I've learned as one of the biggest mistakes, not really investing earlier and not seeing that value early enough. I've paid the price.
No, it's an interesting one, and I think that is hindsight. And I hope the audience hears this, because it's certainly true in my business that, as well. Like I remember the first time I spent a ton of money on coaching. I
Mhm.
happened to have done group coaching before I did a private mastermind and one-to-one coaching. That's my journey. But I
Yeah.
remember having the conversation. It wasn't so much about the money; it was, will I use it well? Because
Mhm.
I'd spent money. I have formal education behind me, and yes, I could have got and spent practically. This was a practical decision, but the interesting conversation I had in my head, and I did have it with my husband out loud, just to say it out loud, and then thought, I hear how dumb I'm being. but it was, I don't know if I will use this to the best of my ability. And it was a ton of money for 6 months. And my husband said to me, okay, let's just remind yourself, are you ever going to spend money and then not show up? And if you show up, how much more will you learn and how much more quickly will you get there? Because when I made the second investment, which was even more money, and I hesitated less, which was interesting. So take note, I hesitated less when I spent more money the second time, because I
Yeah.
could see the value. And then I was saying, to the comment that got me kind of stopped in my tracks was, I knew I'd get there. I was committed to the long term. That's what you said as well. I was committed to the long term. And the question was, if I get there in 5 years, how exhausted will I be? If I could get there in two and have support, is it easier?
Exactly.
I was suddenly
Yeah.
like, this is the easiest no-brainer I could make. That does not mean that I didn't have to, refocus every day and calm the panic that said, when my revenue exceeds, or my expenses exceed my revenue, I know I can't do this forever.
Mhm.
So I must implement effectively what I'm learning and measure it. And yes, the boat turned. And yeah, I swung very quickly when I did start to build momentum. And I did momentum because I was taking uncomfortable actions. And I agree with you. There's not a single entrepreneur that I've met that said, gee, I wish I had started later. It is, I wish
Exactly.
I'd started earlier. I wish I didn't hesitate so much. But community is really important, and you do not have to do it by yourself. And so as you look to your future and as you look to the kinds of people that you're serving today, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are that you're seeing? And have you got a strategy to walk through it?
Definitely the main challenges are persons they're not looking at they're not looking at their numbers. They don't understand their numbers. I also find a lot that there's so much confusion and there's this culture of secrecy. There are a lot of persons, when we talk, they'll say, I just felt so embarrassed, I just felt so overwhelmed. And that's okay, those are real emotions. However, it's not staying there, right? It's saying, I'm scared, I got to reach out for help. I don't understand, I got to reach out for help. So these, and also persons I find to put that false sense of security in their bank accounts. So
If
it's
there's money in the
like,
bank account, I must be doing okay.
yes,
Maybe not.
I got 5,000, I got 6 figures, I'm good. That is so risky. That is definitely a huge challenge I'm seeing. And I've seen it over and over. Okay, the bank account is healthy and oh, fine. And then when there's a crunch, we need to figure out what's happening. We need to do this. You have that panic. So that is definitely some of the challenges that I do see. How I help persons to really overcome these challenges is we take a deep dive into your business. We look at your business numbers. We look at what I call the story behind the numbers. You made sale of 100,000. Was that too little? Was that too much? How does that compare? Can we rely on that number? Right?
Mhm.
So do you have systems that
Can
security
you
to
repeat
say,
it?
okay, yeah. So these are some of the things we actually do to really improve your business, improve your profits, improve your cash flows, and more. We also look, it's a 360-degree view. It's what are your goals as a business owner? We look at that and then ensure that those are intertwined in the business. So you might say, okay, I want to have 5 locations, 3 locations. I want to have this million in sales. Do you have the systems to really support that? Are you really on that path to really
Mhm.
support that? It's one thing to make money and then it's another thing not to keep it. So we dive into all these different areas of the business to really understand what's happening and definitely improve your business, profits, cash flow, ultimately wealth as well. And another thing to a last thing is always to let the business owner, the CEOs know that, listen, it's not just about year end. Oh, this is my tax amount. You need to have deeper eyes on your business. It's not just about, I'm going to pay this in tax. Is it too high, too low? Or you want your CPA or accountant to work with magic at year end. It's about doing deeper than that. It's about having tax strategies, a plan to save legally on taxes. It's about, okay, am I pricing properly, right? Am I, are there money holes in my business? Am I losing money in ways I didn't realize? Do I have too much team? Or, there's so many different areas we dissect to really understand and ultimately improve what's happening in your business. And of course, ultimately let you say bye to the chaos, the overwhelm, the frustration.
I think it's everything, and I'm such an advocate for this because I come from the business background, and profit is not the same as cash flow, and cash flow is one of the most important things to measure. And
Hmm.
I just had this conversation with my family because it was like you lose sight of the numbers, and you can
Yeah.
lose sight quickly, and it can create a crunch that isn't maybe a long-term one, but it can wreck a financial short-term one. And that was the exact conversation we have. I said, you've got all these unexpected bills, you're paying more than you think, and yes, you have good money coming in, or you have a membership, or you have something that gives you a place to start.
Hmm.
However, if you do not get your eyes on it and have courage to sit down with people like Kirsha and say, this is where I'm at. It's so important to have faith to do that, because
Hmm.
your business needs to have both, well, 3 things: revenue, profit, and cash flow. And you simply can't trust the number at the end of the bank balance where you're not sure, well, it's positive. It's like, really, is this worth it? Is this a viable business? Can you step away? Can you find easier ways to plan? And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Plan. You should have in your team somebody that can help you with tax planning. Someone can help you with cash flow, because you do not have to suddenly go get a finance degree. Here's the good
Yeah.
news. You do not have to suddenly go get a finance degree, but it is well worth spending some money saying, am I structured right? Am I aware with all my
Exactly.
money? Because you actually think, if I brought in a $5,000 revenue, you might not have any clue how much money is going out.
Exactly.
How much money you
Exactly.
keep is really important.
Yeah, and you don't know, the thing is, you won't know the strength of your business until it's fully tested. We saw that with COVID. It's like a house. You don't know the full strength of that foundation until you see cracks or you see stuff happening and your house is just, falling apart in various ways. So it's always important to know, is this foundation solid when it's dissected? If you need to get an investor or the bank is looking at your numbers, will it withstand the test, the scrutiny? Will
And
your
if you want to
business
sell
really
it,
get value?
somebody
Exactly.
wants to see cash flow on the thing. People keep saying, how do I raise money? And I said, the first thing they're going to look at is your books. Do you
Yeah.
have cash flow? Cash flow is important. And this is such an important conversation. I love the lessons. I love the fact that you've got this, real commitment to serving other people. How can people find you? Because I think, guys, you need to take advantage of the fact she is a wonderful woman and a wonderful part of our community. Honestly, she's got an amazing podcast. You should definitely follow her on social media, because this is the conversation you might be scared to have, but now you
Mhm.
better. It's not quite so scary. And you can pick up the phone and say, help. I actually have no idea what my numbers are.
Yeah,
Start somewhere.
exactly. Just start. So definitely you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm there as Kirsha Campbell. Facebook, I'm there as well. And I'm also on Instagram, on all the platforms, the Cash Lab on Instagram. So reach out to me, say hi. I'm happy to chat, to connect. And yeah, we're all a community. So it's amazing.
Well, we all help each other, and I said,
Yes.
lean on each other's strengths, because, the great thing about community, and this is why I built this community, is, one bit that you go, oh, heaven, hell, I am not interested in doing that component. The great thing is somebody else loves it. And
Yes.
while you may not have started out thinking accounting and the world of this would not be your path, you have some great skills, and I really do trust your judgment. So guys, reach out. Kirsha, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes. Thank you.
This
I do
is
appreciate being here. Yeah.
This is Every Business Owner Has a Story. So come back for the next episode, hear from another one of our amazing community members, and keep dry out there. I hope you have an awesome
Yes.
day. Thanks for being on our show today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine. I do appreciate it. And thanks to all your listeners for tuning in. Bye.
See you later.